We are here, baby, coming at you live from outside the Matrix. Jason and I have been awakened. We are eating
gruel
inside a subterranean anti-gravity machine.
Weren't they spaceships? I thought they had a spaceship that they were going around in.
Well, they were underground.
Oh, okay.
So they were in these, like, I don't know what they were.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, we could dig into the Matrix, I guess, but...
Yeah.
I don't know that that's...
It's been done.
Yeah, it has been done. It's been done. Did
Probably
you know that, I will
nauseum.
say, do you know that the brothers that made the Matrix both transitioned into women?
Did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they became trannies.
No.
Yeah, and then they made the new Matrix. One of the brothers did.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, he made the new Matrix, but now he's a tranny, so he's, like, insane.
Yeah.
And it just...
That's why they're insane movies.
Yeah, it just sucks. Yeah. The old Matrix, I think those are really good movies.
Oh, all three of them, you mean?
The old ones, yeah. The new one is...
See, I've never even seen past the first one.
Oh, really?
No, because I had heard the second and third ones were garbage.
Oh, no, dude. I think they're really good.
Really?
I think they're really good. Yeah, there's a lot in there that's really good. I think as Christianity consumes the entire world, I think that there's a lot of Eastern philosophy that will be metabolized and used by Christians moving forward. And I think that there's a lot of really good Eastern wisdom in the Matrix. A lot of stuff about, like,
interesting
acceptance and this sort of, like, you're a part of this thing that's much bigger than you. That's
oh, you mean like a counter individuality?
Yeah,
because like we said last episode, like I said, efficiency is like the god of the West,
for sure,
and specifically American.
Right.
We just want it faster.
Right.
But also,
it's the corruption of the Protestant
individuality is also right alongside of it.
Right alongside that. What do you
me
want?
and my story matter more than my family. There is no family honor that is, there's no family disgrace. There's no disgrace that you bring on your family by your actions because you are the thing that matters the most.
Right.
In American individuality.
Right.
So they think there needs to be. So in that sense, I agree. And I kind of noticed this. Just like all American families have their own households.
Yeah.
They don't live in multi-generational living situations or close to, might even be states away.
Right.
I'm states away from my parents.
Yeah.
So, and there's definitely a place biblically, I think, for being separated from your parents so that you can have an autonomous family unit that is not ruled by overly controlling parents, because it's a great temptation of grandparents to help try and raise the grandchildren in their own way, like they have a second shot at parenting, or to control. So there's balance there. And I think a lot of other cultures, poorer cultures, it was out of necessity that they all lived together. Right? There's like multiple generations, because no, you couldn't just go out and get a loan for a house and a job and a career that supported you in your own family unit. You were dependent on. So I think there's some kind of balance there.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, you want to be independent, but you don't want to be isolated.
Correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do need to rule your own family.
Right.
And not let your mother or father do that, or your mother-in-law or father-in-law dictate what's going on.
Yeah.
Influence and advise, certainly, with their wisdom and their age.
Yeah. But they're not going to have the final say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You should not be separated from isolated, like you say.
Right.
You're going to lose out on a lot of generational wisdom that way.
And you're going to a lot of physical help too.
Yeah.
I just can't even, dude. I mean, I totally understand why people in today's atomized, broken society, like broken up society, where yes, you don't have these like extra generational connections. I totally understand why people are afraid to have kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just having both sets of grandparents here, 30 minutes from us. It almost feels like nothing's changed in like the amount of leisure time I've had with my wife. Because if we need a break, if we really need a break, they're a phone call away.
Yeah.
And it's their grandchild.
So they're like, yeah.
Oh, they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, be right over. And so it's just like, okay, we're gonna go to like last night. My wife and I just took my daughter over to our grandparents' house. She stayed the night there. We went to dinner. We were at dinner forever. Went home, hung out, sat on the couch, talked. Didn't have to whisper at night. Just speaking loudly to each other. May or may not have enjoyed something else loudly.
Like tiramisu.
Yeah, tiramisu. Sure, was that maybe even a little bit more enjoyable than tiramisu.
I don't know. Tiramisu's pretty good.
It's not that good.
I don't. All right. Anyway.
We hit Jason's
You got
limit.
me there.
We hit
You got
Jason's
me
limit.
there.
I
All
got it. I got it.
Yep. Hit the 5 minutes in.
I
would take a hard right turn. Have I ever told you about our home invasion story?
No. Before you do, let me tell you this real quick. I was talking to several of the boys at church about our partnership in this.
Uh-huh.
I just got asked a couple times about it. People are like coming up to me at church now, being like, "Hey, I've listened to the podcast. It's really good, man." Which is nice. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for that. Very encouraging today.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, for real. Thank you for listening. That's really awesome. You could spend your time doing all kinds of stuff, and we appreciate you giving some of it to us. But I was talking about
unless it's useful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
don't waste your time on it.
Yeah, don't waste your time.
We don't want it to be. And tell us.
Yeah, and tell us so we can correct ourselves.
Or vote with your views.
Yeah. I was talking about how half of the things that I say that are like edgy or like are like out there, I say just to bother you. So I'm
just for the show.
Yeah, I know what I'm about to say, and I like make sure to kind of give a little look to see to watch you squirm as I'm like unlimited free. Watch you. I'll bleep that out.
I did hear that bleeped out last time. So
yes, I did bleep it out. Yeah, you're welcome. I will always, if it makes you uncomfortable, if I see you physically like, oh man, I'll be like, all right, that's got to get
rubbing
bleeped out.
my eyes.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we got to take that one out. But it also, I think it makes it way funnier to bleep it out. It's way funnier. The bleep is way funnier than anything I could ever say.
Yeah.
So to like know the listener can hear your silence, hear your discomfort.
Have you ever watched the show Arrested Development?
Yes,
because they would bleep. Do you remember the part where Buster finally goes off about his mom?
No, I don't think I didn't watch a ton of it.
Okay, Buster's like the youngest child, and he's like 30 and going bald and whatnot. But he is.
Is he the magician?
A mother's boy? No, Job is the.
Oh yeah, okay, he's the one with the glasses.
The super crippled, emotionally crippled, dependent on mom still. Faithful to mom, even though she's terrible and manipulative,
right?
And all the other siblings know that, and rag on her. But then finally Buster starts ragging on her, and then goes way overboard, and then like it's just like beep, 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 and they're beeping like 80% of the words he's saying in this tirade, and it pans to like all the other siblings who are just shocked. And then, like, he finishes off with, like, horny old slut! And then Jason Bateman's character's like, well, nobody's going to top that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
At first, they're like, hey, look at who's ragging on the old lady, you know? Yeah. And then he just goes way over the top, and they're all like, oh, my goodness. We wouldn't even say those things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dude,
that's an example of like the bleeping being way funnier. You don't even know what he's saying.
Right. But there's like the mystery.
The shock of him saying it, and the fact that you don't have to listen to a bunch of horrible things being said.
Yeah.
Makes it you can laugh at it.
Yeah, dude.
And it's still PG.
Yeah, dude. And
almost.
And to hit the bleeping out a bunch of words and then hitting like one really long one where the person's just like, and it's just bleep, just.
They couldn't even find a spot to stop the bleep.
That's so funny, dude. It's so funny. I tried to hit the joke I made a few months ago about politicians that you were like, you have to take that out. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
I made a joke about.
It's not an invitation to repeat the joke. I'm just saying I don't remember the exact joke. I'm not going to repeat
it because I don't want to have to go in and bleep it. I don't want to edit, so I'm not going to repeat it.
Ethan's primary motivation in not saying things is
to
I don't
reduce
want
my
to edit.
Workload. Yeah.
It's a good motivation.
Yeah. But yeah, I hit because I said several things and I knew what I was doing at the time. Like I knew I was going to okay, I'm going to bleep that word.
Yeah.
And then I said like several sentences that I knew I could not leave in. And so I hit like a beep, 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 beep. beep, beep, beep. And so I hit that joke. That's one of my favorite jokes.
Yeah.
Is the bleep, dude. I love the bleep, bro. So funny. So funny.
I think it would just like, yeah, no, I agree. The bleep is funny to the point where I think at a certain point in my past I would, or in my family, we would just bleep
Yeah.
in conversation instead of actually saying anything.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't acceptable in our family to
Right.
swear like that
Right.
or say those things. They're like, what the bleep?
Yeah.
And then like, everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a good one. That's a good
Conservative family jokes.
one. Yeah, conservative
Family
joke.
swearing jokes are all bleeps. You
Yeah.
can swear as long as it's only a bleep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. All right. 10 minutes in. We got to keep this one tight.
Yes, sir.
So let's dive in today. Today we are talking about relationships. We're talking about relationships again, but this time we are going to
It's
discuss...
with a twist.
Yeah, a little twist on it. We're going to discuss arranged marriages. We're going to discuss how involved, if you're a young guy, how involved should you let your parents be in the matchmaking process between you and your suitor? This is your topic. So you want to open up?
Yeah. I'd say I think there's two ways to approach this. We could talk about the idealistic way.
Yeah.
And I think we'll touch on that, and we'll definitely talk about the idealistic way. What I think should be the way you handle a courtship
Yeah.
and the relationship you have with your parents and your potential betrothed's parents, and then there's the way that in our society you may just have to do the best you can.
Yeah.
Maybe your father's an alcoholic and you really shouldn't ask his opinion about what maybe he is unfaithful to your mother and he's a terrible source of wisdom for you. You don't want his advice.
Right.
You shouldn't. It'd be a foolish thing to do to ask his advice.
Yeah.
So obviously that's where the idealistic thing comes in which case this is really just, this also has to do with how you raise your children, what expectations you teach them about how the courtship process is going to go. It's like when you are of age, this is, and when you find a young lady that you're interested in, this is how you are going to conduct yourself. Mm-hmm. And since this is also talking to parents, this is how you should be with your son or daughter's relationships.
Yeah.
And how involved you should be or how not involved in certain ways. I think in general, parents should be far more involved in the decision-making process than they currently are in the majority of American married relationships.
I think that's a fair statement.
So we're way off to the left on that one.
Yeah.
However, I don't think it's a matter of just saying now they're all of a sudden going to be snapped back to the middle and they're going to be as involved as they should be, because not everyone's going to be on board with the same set of ideas of how they don't have the wisdom. I don't think a lot of the parents out there who have older teens, younger 20s, still living at home, I don't think they have the wisdom to actually perform those duties properly. I don't know if it would go any better. If you were all of a sudden, if I had the power to go, all right, now all of a sudden all parents are going to be advising heavily and all young men are going to be taking the advice that they are given by their parents, but nothing changes about the society otherwise.
Yeah.
The wisdom's going to be pretty off kilter in a lot of situations.
Right.
Like the alcoholic dad, like the unfaithful mother, like whatever. It's going to be I think it'll be a slow Christian community-based drift back the other direction. It'll take a generation or two for this to implement.
Right.
And it only works on one side. If you're going outside of your community, outside of your Christian community, outside your Amish community, to your modern Amish Christian hybrid community that that you are building out there by just going to church and getting to know other people your age and people older than you and younger than you, and becoming more tight-knit as a community. If there's no one in your community for you to court, and you're forced to go outside of it to find somebody, or you just, God lets you meet someone at work. Put someone in your life, meet them at work, meet them at the bus stop, I don't know, whatever. There's no telling what kind of family situation you're running into.
Right. Yeah.
That being said, so in that situation, even if your parents are great and they're all on board with guiding you along, her parents might be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're a great couple. Maybe they were great parents, but their philosophy around that is, no, it's her decision entirely. It's very American. It's completely her decision. We don't pick her spouse. That would be horrible.
That would be sexist.
That'd be sexist. That'd be just oppressive. We don't want to hurt the relationship with our daughter. Yada yada yada. We're afraid she'll, up and leave if she doesn't like. She'll do what she wants anyway.
Right.
So there's a lot of fears on the part of parents about giving that kind of advice, even if it is good advice. So there are parents who could give good advice, but don't out of fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of obstacles to overcome in changing this part of our society. And I have no hopes of changing the society at large. I have hopes of being salt and light, as early Christians were in a Roman Empire, about being a light in their small, tight-knit communities and not associating with this community at large in an intimate way.
Yeah.
But they had enough contact to be examples. And so, the pagan Romans, or in this case, the pagan Americans, the atheist Americans would look and see, wow, you know what? There actually seem to be those women wearing the long skirts,
right,
with the denim jackets, seem to be really content and happy all the time.
Yeah, why are they smiling all the time?
Why they're smiling? They're not bitter. They're not vaping constantly. They're not on their phone.
I don't know why that's so funny.
I'm not sure why you think
These
that's
dumb
so
sluts vaping all the time. It's just that is such an action. It's good. That's just a good observation.
Oh, okay.
Because that is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Just walking around in crop
on a
tops,
phone,
vaping on their phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so. Have you ever seen the post like girls these days can't do nothing but eat hot Cheeto, count down till their birthday, look at their phone, and cheat? Like that's all they can do.
Eat hot Cheetos. Blue heat.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Those Taki, whatever they're called.
Yeah, Takis.
Takis. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You want some chemical hormone?
They are good though.
Hormone destroying. Go for food coloring.
Yeah, I've never had the blue ones, but the red ones are pretty good. The blue ones that's just a step too far.
That's
unnatural.
Scary.
Looking.
It's unnatural looking.
Yeah.
Although I think I've heard the red food coloring is like the most harmful.
Yeah, I think it's the worst one. Yeah.
So
far.
I actually choose my Gatorades or Powerades based on
food
the coloring.
Yeah.
I was like, if it's a red or red derivative color, then I'll go for the blues.
Yeah.
And whatnot
Slightly
instead.
less
Blues and yellows.
Yeah.
No oranges, reds, or purples, sadly. I would like the purples. But oh well.
Oh well.
I digress. So, why are they not vaping? Why are those denim skirt clad women with the 6 children trailing after them like a bunch of ducklings? Why do they seem to be happier?
Right.
I think Doug Wilson told a really funny story about, I don't remember if it was a member of his family who had said this, but it was a woman who had a bunch of children or whatever, and somebody made a snide joke. Another lady at out in public made a snide joke about like, what causes that, don't you? Children.
Yes.
And she goes, yeah, and it looks like I'm getting a lot more of it than you are.
Boom. Get wrecked, idiot.
Which is a delightful way for a really conservative woman to put down a liberal.
Yeah, that's very fun.
A feminist, anyway.
It's very fun.
It's hilarious.
Very fun.
which is true because I mean,
It is what
modern Americans are having a lot less
sex.
like the more
Yeah.
the more taboo destroying porn you watch and the more you enact that into your own relationships and expect that, or the more you wreck taboos and the more you go outside of the natural orientation of sex that God has set up, the less sex you actually want, because nothing is the old stuff, standard stuff. You become desensitized to the point where you're not aroused by anything natural. You have oriented yourself in an unnatural way. This goes back to a couple episodes ago about us talking about this, but I think it's worth noting.
It turns out the
Just
way we used to
passing.
make cake made everybody like cake because it was good. Huh. This new cake tastes like shit and I don't want it. Wild. Who would have thought?
Perhaps it has had shite mixed into it.
Yeah, perhaps it has. Yeah, perhaps it has.
Anyway, do you have anything to add
so
far about the parents?
I think I think you and I are pretty, sometimes on the show we try to take different sides of the same topic, but I think you and I are pretty aligned on this one.
So we haven't said anything.
That and
you're like, yep,
and
yep, just nodding over
totally
there.
honest with you, I forgot to mentally prepare for this topic, so
Okay.
I haven't thought of anything to say. So I've been thinking.
Well, I'm also trying not to bring up like specific examples to like talk about or break down because it could be sensitive to family, and so I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Where this topic bridges out of, I don't really want to get into necessarily. So that's making it a little difficult for me to get into the weeds on.
Yeah, do the dance.
Trying to do the dances.
Well, we could do this. I mean, we could even say we could table it in maybe use hypothetical examples with like our own children.
Yeah.
I think, I certainly think it's ideal. I don't know if you do. You can disagree with me on this if you would like.
I'd love to.
I think that it's probably a goal of our group that our children intermarry. I would imagine.
I would love if it happened.
Yeah. I'm certainly not going to like try to force it.
Say like you may only choose from these 4
young men. Yeah.
Although if raised in this, so some background, if we've alluded to it, but there is a group of men at our church who are getting together meaningfully and deliberately to build a kind of a community within a community with the express purpose of building a more solid and meaningful Christian community, not one that you just enter into when you go to a church and participate in its potlucks and stuff for a while, and then when you get a different job, you move away.
Yeah.
This is meant to be a more permanent structure and to interlock our lives deliberately and to purposely depend on each other.
Yeah.
So that our children will also do the same, and that generationally this will become something that is extremely powerful and, above all, glorifying to God.
Yeah.
Because it will, Lord willing, maintain a greater amount of generational faithfulness to God.
Yeah.
Among our children, as opposed to those who either send their kids off to public school or allow their children to associate extensively with the neighborhood rabble who may it's like who knows where they come from and what they're saying and how much porn your kids are getting exposed to by the other kids in the neighborhood who have smartphones already and they're 8 years old and they're watching, all sorts of God forbidden things.
First person to ever show me porn was a kid in my neighborhood.
Mine was I think we just found a magazine at a park and he happened to be there. And he was like, this one's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like he was obviously already callous to it, sadly.
Yeah. And I think we are, I tell people that we are, we're building our own welfare state, but instead of monetary checks, it's food and helping hands.
There you go.
That we're distributing amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I would say, I think the,
so that's what Ethan was talking about when he talked about our children intermarrying.
Right.
So our hope is that many of our children will find spouses within this group, so that, one, we'll all be tighter knit together because now we're related by marriages of our children.
Right.
But also because, I mean, that's what a community is. The Amish marry within the Amish, and that's why they are so strong and so identifiable as separate from American culture.
Right.
And that's what we want, is to be separate from American culture and to stand out, not just because we want to be cool or edgy or anything like that, but because I think that's the only way, almost, monk-like in a way, to be separate from the general society that is so deviated from God's way.
Right. We're doing it
trying to
because
preserve.
We think it's right. So we think it's the right thing to do.
We think it's the only way to really preserve and grow as a Christian.
Right. Yeah, and so I would say, we want our kids to intermarry, and ideally, whether or not that happens, I don't know. And I make the joke every now and then to Jason that his son is going to have to marry my daughter because he's going to be the only one tall enough to do it. Because my wife is 6 feet tall and I'm 6'2", and my daughter's already in the 80th percentile in her height, and both Jason and his wife are tall, so hopefully your son's going to put up at least 6 feet. I'm going to need him to.
I'd be surprised, but Emily's side are very tall.
Yeah.
Both her brothers are tall.
Yeah. You're tall. Yeah.
It'd be surprising if he didn't.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We'll see.
I'll still love him.
Yeah.
If he's under 6 feet.
Yeah. I'll give him a hard time.
He'll still find
I'll
some
be like,
little.
Boaz, you let me down.
He'll still find some cute little girl, or maybe they will rise above the height thing. Maybe it won't matter for them.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Maybe we're being old fashioned.
Maybe we are. But yeah, so I think we would be pretty involved with our kids' marriages. I hope to be. I expect to be. I guess I don't expect to be, but I hope to be pretty involved in my daughter's marriage. And I think one of the things that is really important here, the thought that I'm having, the thing that I want to mention, is the preservation of culture. So, I think one of the real reasons I would hope that my daughter marries one of yours being our crew, marrying one of the sons from our crew, is that I would know that family is going to preserve the culture that I believe in. This, sort of this culture that owes its heritage to Protestant, Puritan, colonial Americans. That culture I want to see preserved and perpetuated, because I believe it's the greatest culture that's
built upon.
Yeah, and built upon, because I believe it is the greatest culture that's ever occurred. And so I want to see it promulgated into the future. And so I would want the young man that my daughter marries to have that same rearing, to have been raised in that same culture.
You'll get to watch it, because all of our children are young, and so we are getting right now. This is the benefit for anyone listening out there who is not a part of our group, or even from a different church or not going to church at all. But this is, you get to potentially watch your child or your future child's spouses grow up.
Yeah.
And you get to interact with their parents and know that, oh, so-and-so has, you might know that there are some anger issues to be aware of. You might know there's some rebellion of one kind or another, and be wary. Whereas if your son or daughter goes off and to college and finds somebody, and their family's from Minnesota,
yeah,
you don't want them marrying someone from Minnesota,
right? From Minnesota, dude.
No, I'm obviously just that they're from somewhere else.
I think if they're from Minnesota, at this point they're going to be Sudanese.
Is it heavy with them?
I think they've imported a ton of Sudanese people or something. Some North African country.
Are they like refugees then? Is it war torn right now?
I don't think anywhere.
I can't keep up. Anywhere's not war torn.
I don't know. I just don't. Refugee is just a word that's thrown around so flippantly today. I think it means nothing. It just means poor non-white person.
Okay,
that's what a refugee is.
Well, that's some very legitimate refugee needs. That's too bad if it's been diluted to that.
Yeah, I mean,
point.
and that is there are people that legitimately should, we should open our doors to and
Right.
offer them a safe place to
The
stay.
Christian hospitality and,
Right,
and
give them
taking
food
care
and-
of those who are downtrodden.
Right. We don't need to be importing massive amounts of fighting aged men
Exactly. Yeah.
from a different culture and then be like, oh, they need to be safe. Like, so does everyone else in the neighborhood.
They might
keep
need to stay and
harassing.
fight for their country.
Right. Yeah.
If there's any force to be fighting.
Yeah. So, and that's so this might be a hot topic, and we'll see. I'll leave this to you whether or not you want to leave this in.
Okay.
But how to say this in a way that's going to introduce it in a way that people will hear. When a non-white family expresses concern with their child marrying a member of another ethnicity, nobody bats an eye. So just keep that in mind as I'm saying what I'm about to say.
For the purpose of, what is the stated reason of expressing concern?
Yeah,
Is it cultural integrity?
Yeah, just cultural integrity.
Okay.
Yeah, like you have
so
Jewish families.
I'm just saying it's not because they're saying we hate white people.
Right.
Right? That's not the stated, or even, you're not even saying that you think that's why. It's not racially motivated.
I think people like having teams, and one of the best ways
I think people need teams.
Yeah, people need teams. Yeah,
I won't say people just like it, like it's a
you're
preference.
Right. You're right. You're
I
right.
think we're talking about building communities, right?
Yeah.
And they have a community built.
Right. So, I mean, here's what I'll say. I'll give you my just to maybe even soften this a little bit more. I'll give you my whole my real quick spiel about ethnic differences and race. I think that for the first few thousand years of human history, your culture was formed by people that were just around you, and everyone that was around you looked like you.
Right.
And so you would then know that just by its nature, the people that didn't look like you
We're not like you.
were not like you.
Yeah.
And so
they did not have the same values, the same religion,
right.
the same diet.
Yeah. And there's very sincere, honest concern with trying to mesh two worldviews. I'm not even making an assertion.
Well, that's unbiblical about being unequally yoked.
Right, unequally
There's a
yoked,
cautionary thing about do not be unequally yoked. In other words, do not marry somebody who has a different worldview than you.
Right.
Don't go marrying a Jewish person if you're a Christian person. And I'm
Right.
talking about a religiously Jewish person.
Yeah, don't go marrying an
Maybe
atheist.
that's bad. Exactly. Don't go marrying a Muslim. That's easier than.
Yeah.
It's not as touchy as a Jewish person.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that. Don't go marrying
did.
someone of a different religion. It's just don't marry a Hindu if you're a Christian.
Right.
You idiot.
Right. Exactly.
You fool.
Right. And so you can extrapolate that out to culture, because culture is downstream from religion.
If they have 5 meals a day and you have 2 meals a day, there's going to be tension.
Right. Exactly.
Real daily tension. It might sound trite on the surface, be like, whatever, you just, it's like, it's not that it couldn't be worked out in that kind of situation, but it is something you have to take into account. This relationship's going to take way more work for you guys to mesh, and you're going to both have to give a lot more than somebody who's in your community already.
Right.
Yeah, and today I would say that doesn't even mean skin color necessarily.
Not necessarily, but
At least in America.
Practically speaking, just think about the differences. If you're a young guy who's married, or if you're a listener who's married, think about I would imagine you probably, just statistically speaking, you probably married someone of the same race who is from a background similar to yours, and think about the hardships that have come from just remediating, or I don't even know if remediating is the right word, but just
understanding.
Understanding and coping with the different familial traditions, not even the cultural traditions. It's like, oh, well, I grew up having a movie night. Well, we grew up going out for pizza.
Right.
So, think about the conflict that arises from that. Now, imagine if it's fundamental assumptions about the way the world works that are different.
Right.
That are different.
Way, way, way bigger, higher stakes.
Way higher stakes. Way bigger problems. And so, my thing about race and ethnicity is that for the first few thousand years of human history, a quick way to and when the stakes were higher everywhere, starvation could happen quickly. You could get disease and die. Like
Marauders were coming into your village with no warning.
Exactly. Like the stakes were higher everywhere, so survival was a big part of what everybody was concerned with. In that time period, a quick way to decide whether or not this person was a good person to do business with, match up with, whatever, was whether or not they looked like you. It was just a quick way to do it, and we still do that with like clothes and stuff. So,
right, different social class.
Right. And so that's why the like race thing got instantiated, I think, in people's minds. And I do also think that there are cognitive, physical differences between the races. I think different races, different ethnic groups are better at some things than others and are worse at some things than others. And you need to, and that will also be a thing that informs the culture of that environment. The things that they value. People are going to value things that they're good at more than they value things that they aren't. Now, One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Stephen Wolfe, which is that somebody asked him, when do you treat people as groups and when do you treat them as individuals? And he answered, I think you treat groups as groups and individuals as individuals.
When?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And so I think
when they're groups and individuals.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
I refuse to answer.
Yeah, I refuse to answer. Yeah. So
I'll answer your question with a question.
I think if you have this, like, if you fall in love, ethnicity and race should not
a real thing.
What, fall in love?
Yeah. You mean infatuation with somebody who's attractive and has chemistry with you?
Yes.
Bull. I'm calling American delusion.
When God makes it clear who He wants you to marry,
there we go.
You should not. If you're white and the person is black, that shouldn't cause an issue. You shouldn't be like, I don't know, God, are you sure? But
yeah, absolutely not.
if you're a parent who is trying to help your child decide, trying to help them navigate the dating world, I think it is fine to say, hey, unless you are compelled otherwise, if you're Protestant white, keep it Protestant white. If something arises, if you meet someone who is not white, and it becomes clear that that person is who you should marry, you ought to marry them. That is, and there's nothing inherently wrong with at all mixed race couples, right? That's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying. Jason's not saying any of this. I'm not going to put that on him. There's nothing inherently wrong with mixed race couples. If you want to, if that is the route.
We're talking about ease of the relationship and the blending of, and the making of your own family culture.
Right.
It has to be a blend of the two of you. And there is, Ethan and I have both married white girls.
Yes.
And there's still cultural differences between our two families.
Yeah.
That have had to be worked out. Expectations of how meals are prepared, how the schedule of meals goes, what kind of things are cleaned and what sort of frequency, what's acceptable as far as decor or not, and dress. There's tons. Everything is affected by a family culture, and you have no idea until you are living with your spouse and go, oh, that's what your folks do? Yeah. My folks always did this.
Yeah.
Well, my mom did this. Your mom does this? Oh, that's not the way my mom did it.
Right.
So many of those conversations. Just, you didn't even... Yeah. You're like, I didn't realize that anybody would do something like that.
Right.
Because this is the way I grew up. So it seemed it was natural to me because it's the only way I was ever exposed to.
Yeah.
I only lived with one family.
And even, exactly. And even then, like the positive that comes out of that is that creates an entirely new, you bring in two family cultures that get bound together through the husband and the wife, and the compromises that are made create an entirely new thriving family that does things their own way. That's a unique blend of the two ways that were done before.
Hopefully it's an improvement upon both, because you can take the best from, because one family may have been really fantastic at family devotion and the other one may have been really great at household management.
Yeah.
And you can take the two of them. The goal, I think, is for your children to be better than you in every aspect.
Right.
To be more successful in business, because if you especially if you have a family generational business, you've taught them all of your mistakes and say, don't do this. We tried that. It failed miserably. So now you can avoid losing $12,000 on that approach.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, listen, dude, here's the last thing I'll say on this. If you think that a white girl is going to marry a like first generation immigrant Indian man, and there's not going to be any conflict.
Oh my goodness.
Like this white girl grew up eating mashed potatoes and chicken. She's going to walk into stinky curry
and burgers.
Yeah. And burgers and stuff. And
what I mean is like cows.
Right. Yeah.
So you're eating beef, and then somebody from a culture where cows are considered sacred.
Right.
And uneatable.
Yeah. And
that's just one example of a crazy food related
sure.
culture clash that you're going to come across and have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being a young white woman who's dating or getting courted by or gonna get married to an Indian man, and she walks out and sees him holding pinkies with his friend as they stroll around. If you don't think she's gonna go, that's gay, whether she admits it to herself or not, she's going to think in her head, that's gay. This is a feminine behavior. I now have a little less respect for him. That's going to seep into their marriage and have to be sussed out. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cause problems. So if your parents or if you are a parent and you are looking at that going, listen, marriage is hard enough as it is. Mm-hmm. You are introducing a layer of complexity here that may not be necessary. That is a reasonable thing to go, if we can avoid this, let's do it. Now, if you're a white girl and you meet an Indian man and you're prayerful about it and he's a Christian and his culture is very different.
Yeah, this is not even a consideration if you're not a Christian. If they're not a Christian,
right? If they're not a Christian, it's a moot point. It's not an issue. You don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, they're not a Christian.
Yeah, but if he's an Indian man who comes from India, or his parents came from India, and they're believers or whatever, they're going to have very serious cultural differences that are going to add a layer of complexity into your marriage, and you just need to be aware of that going in. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but I am saying you should.
Don't be naive about how much there is to figure out in marriage.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And as a parent, your dumb 19-year-old, hopefully they're going to be smarter than you were at 19 because you raised them to be. So I shouldn't say dumb 19-year-old, but they are an inexperienced 19-year-old.
Yeah.
They cannot be an experienced 19-year-old in relationships. So you have the benefit of decades, a couple of decades more probably, of experience and lived wisdom.
Yeah.
And say, have you guys thought about this? Have you talked about these things? Here's some things you guys need to settle before you decide. Well, one, before you get emotionally involved. I think that's where parents could really help the most, is pulling back the reins and saying, you guys are spending an awful lot of time talking. What have you substantively decided?
Yeah.
Or sussed out as potential deal breakers?
Yeah.
Do you have deal breaker? Are you entering... If you're not entering the negotiations, as air quotes, the negotiation and interview process of a relationship without some deal breakers written down, not just a mental list, but I think you need to have these things written down.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you will compromise because she's really pretty.
Yeah.
You're going to compromise. I don't care how... I'd say 98% of you guys are not going to not compromise. If you're not, you're going to compromise unless you are entering it with some accountability, like your parents who say, but John, you said this was a deal breaker for you. Why are you suddenly saying, it's not such a big deal?
Well, Mom, she's got voluptuals.
Dad goes, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Sick.
That's the
that's what we don't want.
That's what Dad should not be involved in that.
Yeah.
No, Dad should go. Yeah, I know she's really hot,
yeah,
but
chill.
But that's not why you're.
Yeah, go eat some ice. Whatever. Just
you got to realize that's not gonna. Like you could get married to someone who is a 3 or a 10. And that's not going to affect the
long-term success
or happiness in your marriage.
Yeah.
You could be happier married to a 3 who is a loving girl than to a 10 who goes and cheats on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Absolutely. I would choose the 3 any day.
yeah.
So anyway, it's the parents' job, I think. It could be the parents' job to help bring the child back.
To offer direction. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
to me that's kind of it. What do you how much do you want the parents to be involved? I think the parents, obviously, culture to culture, group of people to group of people, it's going to be different. But I think mainly the broad spectrum statement that you can say is to offer direction. Is to just like, nope, here, hey man, stay on task here, whatever.
But in order for that to work, there has to be that expectation built up from a young age.
Right, absolutely.
Or if you're a young man listening to this and you don't have a young lady yet, you might have to convince your parents that they need to do this for you.
Yeah.
So you might actually be going to your parents and saying, Mom and Dad, I recognize that I'm 23. I don't know how to pick a bride.
Yeah.
I want to pick a good girl who's going to be a good wife for me. I don't know what to look for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to my peers because they're also going to be like, yeah, voluptuous.
Voluptuous, dude.
Yeah.
Look at the hip to boob ratio.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not very helpful, most of them.
No.
So go to your parents who have, provided your parents are somebody you would, if their marriage is something you admire,
Yeah.
then go to them, because they may have like we said earlier, they may have a marriage that is admirable, but their parenting may lack, they may lack the confidence to come to you and say, hey, I don't know about Sarah. We've noticed this about her.
Yeah.
She seems X. And you've always talked about Y.
Right.
So why are you so interested in Sarah?
Yeah.
Is it because you have biblically assessed and prayed about this and you realized that you were just kind of silly in that desire? Or was that a good desire for you to set Y as your goal and now you're choosing X?
Yeah.
Or is it just because she was
she's the first pretty thing that batted her eyes at you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's really important because, and talking to somebody else, another adult recently, my wife and I realized that, and my wife remembers this from when she was younger, is that as a young lady, at least, and as a young man, I think you have a fear that this might be the last one. There might not be anyone else after this. Maybe nobody else will ever be interested in me again. If this relationship doesn't work out, so maybe I should compromise. There's a great temptation, maybe in young ladies primarily, to say yes to a guy because they are in a conservative community. They have to be asked. They're not the ones going out and seeking a man. They are just waiting, which is really hard. It's really hard to have the boldness to go out and ask somebody, but it's also really hard to just sit back and and continue dressing nicely and smiling and waiting for some guy to actually ask to marry you.
Right. I mean, that's there are very few like really beautiful Disney allegories. For the most part, Disney's a despicable thing, but
this we know. Anyway.
Yeah. In the Little Mermaid, when she, in order to go onto the beach to go be with the prince, she has to sacrifice her ability to speak.
Okay.
And so she just has to sit in the boat and just will him to kiss her. Like that is what women, that is their experience of the romantic.
It's just waiting.
They're just sitting there, just like willing.
Yeah.
Just
like,
kiss
please,
me. Just kiss
please,
me. Yeah. They
please
can't,
love
but
me.
they can't speak. They can't say anything.
Interesting.
Dang it, I lost my train of thought again, dude. Well, you know what's happening right now is the caffeine's turning on me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
making you spazzy.
Yeah, making me a little jittery. Dang it, dude, it's completely gone. Now I'm trying to think about it. It's making it worse.
Yeah, that always makes it worse. So the difficulty as a young person may be that you are fearful that you will expire.
Yeah, that's that you're going to expire, or like young men, like a lot of the thing I see in young men is just going after the first opportunity they can get.
Right.
You know, you're so horny, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
You're 16 years old. You're in physical pain. That's one of the things like girls don't get is that it hurt, it like physically hurts.
There's a drive.
Yeah, like nothing you've ever experienced when you are a young post puberty guy, pumped full of testosterone. You are like I
Desperately need to plant my seed.
I need to get those sweet walls, dude. I need them. And so I see a lot of young guys going after just the first opportunity they can. That's what I did. And like even in a Christian sense, it's like, you marry just the first girl that'll marry you, just have sex. I obviously wasn't in that boat.
And your parents might be able to protect you from a divorce down the road.
Right.
Or at least a really unhappy long marriage, very difficult.
Yeah.
And unequally yoked because this girl was not what she appeared to be.
Right. And
or this young man turned out to be a real disaster.
Piece of
but
work.
he was very charming and handsome at first.
Yeah. Poor wife.
Selling yourself short.
No, I'm actually if there's one thing I'm good at, it's being a father and husband. Yeah. That might be the only thing I'm good at. Here's what I was going to say. I was going to say that you're right about the starting early with this, setting these expectations, because my parents didn't do that. And, I came from a conservative Christian house.
Mine didn't either. We were mostly on our own. Mostly.
Yeah. And my first two serious girlfriends, my parents had to basically just be like, okay,
yeah,
I hope this works out.
I hope it, yeah.
Yeah. And it wouldn't have worked
really
out.
Nice.
Yeah. My first girlfriend was mentally ill, like seriously mentally ill. But was so hot, dude. Oh my goodness. Not a good move. And it wouldn't have been good. I think she weighs like 300 pounds now. That girl.
Wow.
Not good. Coincidentally, my wife was at the grocery store, and there was a park at the grocery store, and so she took our daughter out there to play, and our daughter started playing with these kids, and the kids went back to their mother, and Abigail came back to my wife, and it was her.
It was her kids?
It was her kids.
Oh,
this
really
girl
weird.
I dated in high school. And so my wife talked to her and knew who she was.
No, really?
Yeah, and my wife didn't know this girl didn't know who my wife was. Like talked for a second about whatever. And Emily was like, yeah, I think I played it really cool, but I was very like thrown off. And she was like, she's also so fat. It's like actually crazy how fat she is.
Huh.
And one time we saw her downtown. She used to own a store downtown, and we like saw her walking to the store, and she was on a crosswalk, and we were at a red light, and I was going to turn, so I had it was time to turn, but I had to wait for her to cross, and I just let my foot off the brake and just started rolling forward, just like at her while turning, and Emily was like stop, but like started laughing so hard, and I was like uncontrollably laughing so hard, and it was like, no, Ethan, stop, she's gonna see us, and she did. She looked up, saw me, and I just kept rolling at her, looking at her deadpan, and she knew who I was, and like looked down and like started walking real fast. Yeah, she knew. And but I just let it, like I just was pretending I was going to just slowly roll over her with the car.
Oh my goodness.
And Emily was laughing so hard. We got down the road a little bit. Emily was like,
was this after the playground?
I don't know. I actually don't remember. It could have been. Yeah.
So maybe she did know who Emily was.
Maybe she did. Yeah. I don't know.
She's like, you are my ex-boyfriend's wife.
Yeah.
Who tried to run me over.
I mean, I think I was one of like literally 26 ex-boyfriends. So I'd like not even a blip on this girl's radar, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, she was really messed up.
Poor thing.
Yeah, poor thing. But the funny thing, we got a few miles down the road, and Emily was still like beside herself, like tears on her face, laughing. And I was like, "Why do you think this is so funny? Why do you think that joke that I was going to kill her is so funny? That's really weird, babe. That you would get that, you would derive this much joy from it." She's like, "Stop! It's not funny." It was a good one, really good one. Joke of me killing an ex-girlfriend is like very funny to my wife.
Maybe that's a fantasy that all
women have.
All good conservative women have.
Yeah.
Just want to eliminate all
potential
all past.
Yeah. 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 So had my parents stepped in earlier and set the expectation correctly, it would have saved me a lot of heartache, man. Those 2 relationships that I had were really, really tremendous waste of time. One of them was
and emotional energy.
Yeah, the first girl, the crazy girl, was the girl who introduced me to drugs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and I was 16 when we started dating, and she was 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was molested.
Okay.
And that does, I know that I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but it does do damage to you, man. If you're 16, you're sleeping with an adult woman, especially the type of girl that would do that is so unstable that the behavior that you guys are going to engage in is going to be so inappropriate that it's going to like fracture your mind. It's going to really mess you up. And so you got to watch out for that too. And have my parents been diligent about setting that expectation ahead of time, they could have stepped in and been like, dude, you are making a really, really big mistake here. And they did try to tell me that a couple times. And,
were you defensive?
Oh yeah. I got very defensive.
Yeah.
Didn't hear it at all.
I wouldn't have either with my first relationship. Lasted 4 years, then got engaged a couple months before it imploded.
Yeah, it happened to me too. I got engaged a couple months before my second serious girlfriend. Yeah, and like that spiraled out. Like I got engaged, then we broke up, and I got so upset about it, I became an alcoholic frat guy who wouldn't stop sleeping with random girls. For 2 years.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, and all of that could have been avoided by my parents being like, this is, I think that this is really important. You need to understand.
But hey, we want them to have the freedom to make their own decisions, and we don't want to. It's like what I hate that attitude in America.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Like you
the
need
freedom to make your own decisions. What do we talk about? Freedom is
for children. Freedom is
liberty.
Immature. Liberty is what you want.
Yeah.
Liberty is freedom plus responsibility.
And that would be your parents advising you very strongly
on what to do. Yeah, and I mean, dude, it just I think your parents should be really involved because you this particular topic, like as I'm starting to think about this more, my wheels are turning. The destruction that can be introduced into your life with a bad girlfriend is, dude, oh my goodness.
You can imagine bad boyfriend for your children.
Oh my goodness, dude, I had the worst summer of my life at the hands of this girl. The first girl, she told me she liked me. We made out. I touched her boob. It was the first boob I ever touched. I was like 15. She was 20 or 19 or whatever. First boob I ever touched. I was in love with this girl.
Yeah.
In love with her. And then she said, oh,
because
I don't know.
Physical contact actually brings you emotionally closer to people.
Right. And she said, oh, I don't know. You're so young. This is weird. Worst summer of my life. I watched her like half date 3 other guys, knew they were sleeping together. Agony, Jason. Agony. Just driving home from school. Crying.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, could have been saved by my parents stepping in.
Forward thinking. Well, I think it's too late at that
You're
point.
Right, yeah. The forward thinking of my parents being like, no,
they
we're going to
being raised and saying, you guys are not going to be able to pick a good spouse.
Right.
Without help.
Right.
You do not have the tools to... You'll be blinded by your attraction for this person.
Yep.
Because otherwise you won't be interested in them.
Right. Especially if you're a young guy. And maybe you'll be ridden with anxiety that there won't be others after him if you're a young lady. Yeah.
Perhaps there'll be other reasons why you wouldn't walk away of your own accord.
Yeah.
Without a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the whole side of parents being too overbearing. And that's the great fear in both the parents not involving themselves. They don't want to appear overbearing. And there's the great fear of the children of being forced out of a relationship that was so meaningful and was just this Romeo and Juliet bullshit.
Oh my goodness. The broken heart. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, man. So it's really, I mean, I think that's a good note to end on is like, how is that? I think Jason and I would really like to harp here how destructive a bad relationship can be early on.
How far it sets you back. How much you give away physically to that
Yes.
person when you are emotionally involved. So that harkens back to how to keep yourself for the marriage that you're actually going to be in.
Yeah.
Is not becoming unconvinced. Sorry, not becoming so convinced that this is the one and there is no other. Being lied to by music lyrics, romantic books, rom-coms of like how you actually meet and find a good spouse, and it's not by random chance.
No, it's a chosen thing. Love is not.
Love is not an emotion. Love is an action.
It's a choice. It's a behavior.
Yeah, you're talking when you are lied to by media. They want you to believe that you can fall out of love with somebody. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's the emotional high that you get with new relationships. This should be a whole whole episode on itself.
This should be an episode on itself. Yeah.
But here's a teaser. The emotional high that you get from the excitement of a new relationship can lead you to infidelity and discontentment with your actual person you love.
Yes.
The one you should be loving, by sacrificing your fleeting desires for doing what's right.
Right. Yeah. And
it's not fun to get up in the middle of the night for your child, but you're loving them by doing that.
Right.
It's not fun to change dirty diapers or fun to clean up humongous messes or fun to go to a job that you don't like, but you're doing all those things out of love and self-sacrifice for people. So you need to pick someone who is worthy of self-sacrificing for, not somebody who is just really hot and you know that's about as far as you think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're hormonally driven. So you are compromised if you're a young man or a young woman in your decision making, and you have to rely on somebody who does not have blue balls to help you make the decision.
Yeah. And I think that that's exactly it. And we could talk on that forever, so I will not even expand
Start
on
to.
it. Yeah,
so
start.
That's our hour.
Yes.
We love you guys. We're praying for you. Find a good girl. Ask your parents to help you if they are not complete deadbeats themselves. If not, look for a couple at church.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
That's another side. If your parents are disasters or if they refuse to be involved, then you can always go to a mentorship sort of thing and say, like, look, I want to get married. I have no idea how to look for a spouse. I want one so badly. I'm afraid I'll make the wrong decision. I respect your marriage. You look like you have a good marriage. Could you help me evaluate this girl here?
They may be able to help you find a girl.
Maybe so. They might introduce you like, oh, yeah, well, actually,
I know a good girl who I think might be
set you up with, and you could have some double dates with us.
I'll call his dad and
yada, yada,
I'll call her dad.
Anyway,
yeah.
That's another idea. If your parents are complete disasters, find a mentor.
Yes.
A couple that you respect their marriage and get advice from them.
Yeah, coming in heavy with the practical tips at the end there. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
Guys, we love you. This has been Work Hard. Ethan and Jason for Hyper Premium. If you have any questions, you can email us at workhard@hyperpremium.co. That is workhard@hyperpremium.co. We will be happy to answer those questions, and we will answer them. But we love you guys. We are praying for you. We hope that you keep a clear head on these topics. Understand that you can ruin your life. You can ruin your life. You will certainly delay it. Yeah, you'll make it way more difficult if you mess this up. But you can ruin it if you mess it up. And so be careful. Be cognizant. Please ask adults around you what's going on, what needs to be done. But other than that,
and if you're a parent, get involved with your kid's life sooner. Sooner better than later, but later is better than never.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Good one. Yeah. All right, guys. We love you. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.